Welcome to the Harnessing Happiness podcast. Upbeat vibes generated and transferred to you. Now here's your host, Sarah J Naylor.
Hello and welcome to Harnessing Happiness with myself, Sarah J Naylor. Thank you so much for dropping on by and taking time to listen to my podcast. I really appreciate it. Thank you. So today I have with me my podcast producer, Pete. Yay! So he's the one that makes all my podcasts sound really fab. So I'm going to hand over to Pete because he can introduce himself and then we'll get cracking with the show. Over to you, Pete.
This is really, really weird, Sarah. Normally I edit your podcast and I listen to your podcast after it's been done, and now I'm playing an active part in it. I'm stressed.
Yay!
I'm stressed. I'm worried. I'm concerned.
Who are you? Tell the listeners.
Hello there. I am Pete. I'm the founder of Carrot Crunchy Media, and we create podcasts that can become our clients' most wonderful marketing tool, as Sarah will tell you, or has done on many occasions. And that's who I am, and that's what I do. If you want any more, you got to ask questions, Sarah. It's your turn.
Oh my gosh, putting the pressure on me. Oh my word, I wasn't expecting that. No, but I really like your route to what you're doing now, though, because I found that fascinating, because this isn't what you've been doing forever and a day, is it? Because you actually have been on the other side.
Yes, I have been on the other side. I was on the other side for quite some time. I've been a radio presenter and producer for 25 years. I know I'm not old enough, am I? I'm not. I
know. You started from primary school, didn't you? That was it.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, it feels like it. I did. I worked on different breakfast shows as a presenter, generally within the East Midlands, and really enjoyed that. And then left in 2019, I've kind of lost track, and at that point I realised that I needed to do something else. So I did what I've always wanted to do, and that's help small businesses sort of amp up their voice through podcasts. I realised I got a set of quite niche skills, I guess, and I just went, oh God, how can I put this to work? And I listened to a lot of podcasts, and that's kind of where it all came from, really. I was a producer before I was a presenter, and I was kind of, if I'm honest, kind of shoved towards being a presenter. Because
well, you've got the right sort of personality for it, Pete. I mean, and all the stuff that we deal together, whether we're chatting on this or whether we're, exchanging text messages or email messages or WhatsApp voice notes, there's always this personality that comes across, and so I can understand why you would have been sort of pushed towards the big mic.
I know, damn that personality. I've tried to stop it, but it keeps coming out. But naturally, I've always kind of been a producer in my mind. As a presenter, I was very average, if I'm honest, but as a producer, I could edit myself to make myself better. So that was...
that's always a good... That's a plus.
I know it is, yeah. So it was kind of always been about production and creating content. And, I did it for a long time, most recently for Capital in the East Midlands. Quite a, I guess really, nothing wrong with the radio station. I'm not going to say anything bad about them. I had a great time there. But quite a corporate entity. So they're very corporate in the way that they do things. So that rather than, being myself, I had to represent their brand. So, I was, a fella in his mid-40s, and the target market of the radio station are kids who are age 15 to 24. So I couldn't talk about garden centres. and the actual things that I like, and the actual things...
And cats.
Yeah. Exactly. I can't talk about garden centres and cats and sitting down with a nice glass of whiskey. I had to talk about...
having a nana nap.
Exactly. You know how much I love my nana naps in the afternoon. I couldn't live without those. But, it became more about representing a brand and digging deep to talk about music that I didn't particularly like and wasn't particularly drawn to, and had to pretend to be passionate about it. So when the chance came, and I did see it as a chance, the job disappeared.
Yes.
The job disappeared. The local breakfast show disappeared, and it's now done by Roman Kemp from London, and he's really good. He's better than I ever was, But I took that opportunity to kind of go, right, what do I want to do with this, and how can we take it back to what I actually want to do, and that is, produce quality content, and who better to do it for than people who have the ability to communicate and have the knowledge. And you have all of these things, Sarah. You're one of the podcasts I produce. Obviously, you've got you've got that depth of knowledge of your subject, and you have that passion of your subject. How can we clean it up and make it really, really accessible to everybody? And that's what we do with the podcast. So just kind of helping clients with their messaging and using the podcast to grow businesses.
Yeah, and it's great. I mean, obviously, as I say, I love doing all the stuff that I do because I can do it. I can record my episodes. I mean, I love to sort of just go straight into it, and as we are doing now, just have that sort of conversation in a way that I feel that people are wanting to tune into, to want to listen, as if they're sort of over, eavesdropping, if you like. But just I have a natural curiosity, but I can do all of that confidently because I know that you can go in and anything that needs tidying up, anything that perhaps, oh my God, who's that knocking at the door? Oh, we've got a delivery. Oh my word. All of those things. Oh my God, my son's ringing. All of those things can be tidied up because I'll tell you what, Pete, I could not do what you do because there's so much attention to detail and going back through it. I mean, just by way of an example, I've got a digital course, Manifest Your Dream Job, and it's accessible by my website, sarahjnaylor.com. I'm in the process of uploading it to Recruiting Gym, which is another business who have a network of people within the recruiting industry. And I've just recorded an episode actually with Angela Cripps, who's the managing director. And it's going on to there as a course available to all of their members or anybody that wants to buy courses. It's going to be available there. So I've been moving it over from one platform to the other, and then I've been going back through because I've had to do it sort of lecture and lesson by lesson. They call them different things on the different platforms. And oh my God, it's just, I can't, that detail, that attention to detail that's required. And that's why I know I couldn't do what you do, because you've got to keep on going back through and going, right, we need to take this bit out, take that bit out. I'd be,
I think like listeners' time is the most. It's everybody's most valuable asset, isn't it? Time. None of us have got enough time. Very, very valuable. So, like what I'll do is I'll edit a conversation, and I won't take personality out. Of course not. I'll edit it for flow. So quite often you'll ask a question, and the person will use some thinking words in order to gear up and work out what they want to say, and all of that will go, and we'll get straight to the answer. Unless, of course, all of that stuff has personality in it, which is what podcasting is about, isn't it? It's about getting your personality out there, and people are drawn to the host, people are drawn to the guests. So I never want to take any of that out, but at the same time, it's respecting the time of the listeners. If we had to listen to, for example, the number of Amazon deliveries you have, you'd lose listeners.
Exactly.
And I do a podcast as well. I work on a podcast, and the number of times I forget a word, and I'll do it during this conversation, and I'll take it out because the audience don't need to hear me flailing around like an old fart looking for a word that's dropped out of my head.
Oh, that's why they went. That's why the job went to Roman Kemp. Is that what it was?
That's mainly it. Yeah, I've seen him on Gogglebox, and he's got all the words.
But I just want to quickly nip back to that though, because what I wanted to really sort of highlight was that you did seize that opportunity to recognise what it was your first love, and took that opportunity to really use it so that you could create the life that you wanted to do with the situation that presented itself to you. And that's what I like to encourage in people to, when they get made redundant or life-changing things, is that this is an opportunity. And when you look at it from a different perspective, because you could have gone, oh my God, my job's gone, what do I do? Woe is me. Have I got to go and work on X, Y or Z local radio station which doesn't float my boat, but da-da-da-da-da. But no, you saw it and you went, great, this is going to give me an opportunity.
I did have a panic initially. I've got, full disclosure, I absolutely did have a panic, and I went, oh Christ, what can I do? Oh God, I can create audio, I can make audio, I can do that, let's do that. And I did that, and then it wasn't until I realised why I was doing it that I become happy with it, and that I have now attracted the clients that I need to pay the bills and lead a lifestyle that I've grown accustomed to. But initially, obviously, there was that like panic. There was that, oh God, well, I'm out of a job that I've done for the last 25 years. And yeah, I had a really good run of it, and I knew it would always come to an end. And I've never been a forward-thinking type of person. I've just been very comfortable where I'm at. But I think a lot of stuff, your own podcast included, there's so much self-development stuff out there. And there are so many concepts that when I was stuck, well, I will say stuck in corporate, because that's essentially what it was. When I was stuck in corporate for 25 years, I wasn't aware of all of these concepts. I wasn't aware of the law of attraction. I wasn't aware of just the things that I'm now aware of, and all of that's come to me through listening to podcasts and consuming content online, but also from a lot of my clients as well. And a lot of my clients have come to me who've just sort of come through other clients, and they've come to me, and I work closely with them. I've had clients through you. You're a fantastic client. I mean, all my clients are, but the content that I'm editing is also helping to develop my mindset the whole time, and that's come to me, and that helps me. And yes. So 3 years ago when I started this, I was panicking, Sarah. I was doing that whole panicky thing.
But that's good. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's that sort of change, because once something sort of opens up, there is all this energy is allowed out. It's sort of like, oh my God, what? And you start to have to think. You're forced into a position of actually having to explore, because maybe this was the path you were supposed to be on, but opportunities, you hadn't, as you said, been aware of all of these other things that are going on. And I think when you get caught up into the corporate world, or anybody that gets into a comfort zone, I guess is the word, but it's not, it's comfortable in so much that you can kind of do it, but it's not challenging you, it's not helping you grow as a person. And actually, when you go on a journey that is bumpy, when it is, you have got all the knocks. I mean, over the last sort of 5-7 years, there was a period, as I'm going back in time, every time I turned my head, there was something chucking itself above the parapet. I'm going, really? No, not some more stuff to deal with. Good God. And it just wouldn't stop. It was relentless. But you learn, like you've said, you go on this journey, and like you've also alluded to, the learning that you get. I mean, I love that with the conversations I have recorded in the episodes, but then when you're listening to it and fine-tuning it, and you're probably hearing the same bit time and time again, and you will hear stuff and you'll learn stuff, and it will go in, and that will then resonate with another conversation. And that's the beauty of personal development. You then you gravitate towards what feels right. You sort of get this real inner sense. And yeah, I think it's absolutely awesome. And as you say, you're doing things independently. You're not constrained. You have no constraints, like you were alluding to in corporate, that you aren't you can speak your truth. You haven't got anybody saying, oh no, you mustn't say that, it's got to appeal to this audience, it's got to appeal to that audience. I mean, my premise is really is spreading happiness and harnessing happiness, is allowing people to have conversations that people will have these sort of aha moments from, or something will resonate, something, well, I don't feel alone, or it just came to me at the right time. I was talking to a lovely lady I was introduced to who lives in North Carolina yesterday, and she's listening. Hi, Meredith. Hey. And she was saying that she was listening. Hi, Meredith. And she was saying she tuned into an episode where I was talking about something, and it just resonated with her there and then, and it was like, oh my God, that's exactly how I'm feeling right now. And that's what's important. I mean, spreading this word, and it's just sort of people being honest and open, authentic, and I think that's the power of it. And it's this sort of movement of people being able to connect. I'm going all tingly. Movement of being able to connect globally through this medium, which is the podcast, which is so amazing. And obviously it helps when it's edited well.
Well, I suppose.
Well, I think, I don't know that we had a conversation with this in the past, or whether it was somebody else I had the conversation with. I forget now. But if you do a post on LinkedIn and mention anything to do with podcasts, it limits the amount of spread it goes out to. Because obviously, if you do an emotive post that's sort of going to trigger people, they will send it out, and you can suddenly have thousands of people viewing your posts on LinkedIn. You put something out and go, something to do with my great conversation on my podcast. So I don't even mention the word podcast now. I don't even hashtag podcast, because it limits where it goes to, and I even wait until there's been some comments on my posts before I put it in. And apparently that's down to the fact that there's been, unfortunately, a lot of people obviously just doing their own podcasts and not having them edited, so it deems it to not be good content.
Yeah, quite often. I mean, podcasts are really accessible, and you know, I'll tell anybody you can do a podcast for free. Of course you can. You can record it all on your mobile phone, and you don't have to edit it. You just put in conversations directly online, and you know, in reality, if that's representing your brand, is it going to do a good job of that? Or do you want something that's a little bit more polished and a little bit more representative? And you talked then about how I referred to corporate, and then you talked about your podcast being all about happiness. It's brilliant, you see, because you've got your subject matter there, and you've set your subject matter yourself. So back in the corporate days, whether it was you working for a recruitment agent or whether it was me working for Capital Radio, it doesn't matter. It's somebody else. It's a different entity setting your parameters, whereas you're setting your own parameters with this podcast. And that's absolutely brilliant. You know, you're creating your own platform. That's a great thing, isn't it? We're not hooking onto the back of another platform, as in Facebook or something like that, or LinkedIn, where the algorithm can change and be not favourable to people with podcasts. You've created your own platform.
And I like that, Pete. You know, that's something that I like throughout all of my life. I mean, I've been self-employed since 2009. I'm initially working underneath another recruitment agency before I set up my business in 2014. And then sort of obviously I've got my coaching practice and one thing and another. But I sort of resist from doing anything underneath anybody else's platform. And I think that's, you know, I like to be able to do my own thing. I don't want to be restricted by anybody else. I like to find my own way, and it's not that I'm not like you should follow me. It's just I have to do it my own way. Even when I wrote my book, and when my editor Emma, who's brilliant, was editing it and sending me chunks back and going, well, maybe you could write it like this. I go, well, that's great, but I need to write it in my words. I can't. It needs to be my words, because I need to feel like I'm owning them. And that's what the same with the podcast is, that it's great. It's that freedom to be who I am, and to enable people to be who they are without any sort of anybody going, well, it needs to be edited in this way, or it needs to have that kind of message, or it needs to gear towards this audience. Or I mean, I remember, I think there was and you probably know more than I will, there was a TV presenter who'd been with the BBC for years and years, I don't know, 20 plus years, that left in the last 2 or 3 months, and I think maybe a little bit longer, but he referenced that freedom to be able to talk as he wants to talk, rather than it being, you know, it's got to be of a certain certain way to the certain audience.
You know, I think one of the things that, and I'm not preempting a question here, although I do know you'll ask it, but I think probably one of the key things about happiness is meeting a sense of purpose. And you can't feel a sense of purpose if you're just representing somebody else's words, or you're representing somebody else's brand. That's what they've come up with. That's their sense of purpose. And that's great. Yes. But it's not necessarily yours if you don't align with it.
Exactly. And it is about identifying that. It is about finding that. It may be that because you have got a sense of purpose, it working for another organisation enables you to push that forward because they've got that larger platform. But as you say, it's having that sense. I mean, what is your sense of purpose, Pete? What makes you happy?
Well, you know what? I'm a facilitator, and I realise this. I just enjoy facilitating people and helping people. And that's taken me a long time to get used to, okay? Because I've realised that, I have real interests. Of course I do. I love riding my motorbike on a summer's day. But that can't be my interest, can it? Because we get like 3 nice days a year. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes, I love falling down a YouTube hole. Of course I do. Yes, I love listening to podcasts. Of course, I love reading books, you know, but I wouldn't say that I've got like a big passion. Whereas, you know, I know that, you know, there are people who have massive passions. I've got a friend who's out with his camera all day long. I've got a camera. I take a few pictures and I go, right, next. What now? But I'm not, and I enjoy it, but I'm not passionate about it. I've not got this massive passion that some people have. And I'm cool with that, because I realise that my purpose and my passion is to help other people. And when I do that, and when I'm able to do that, and when it works out, that's happiness for me.
It's great, isn't it? You get a sense of satisfaction and achievement and feeling of well-being, and it's about how it all aligns, because actually if you are then in alignment with those talents and passions, everything else then falls into place. Because I think I'm a little bit like you, you know, nothing's ever really burnt. I've never had, like you've just mentioned and alluded to, that there are people that are so much on that sort of real mission and this real focus, and it's got to, but you know, I am and I'm not, because like you, working in recruitment since 1987, and I didn't realise it, but I've always enjoyed helping people. And I'm had a profile done of Roger Hamilton. If anybody's aware of Roger Hamilton, does talent and wealth dynamics, and I had my profile done a few years ago now, and I'm a star supporter, which means I like supporting other people to be the best version of themselves. And in going self-employed, you know, I have to work that in reverse onto myself. But I've got this blaze dynamo energy as well. So I've got all this sort of drive, and I've got zero steel energy, which means I can't sort of hopeless at the detail, which is why there's no point me sort of doing the detail like producing. But, you know, I like to encourage people and help them shine. That's what I love doing. This platform, this podcast, enables me to sort of help people on that journey, help them share what they are and what they can bring to the world, and have that resonate with people. And whether that brings business back to them, that is absolutely awesome. Or that we're just as a collaboratively sort of changing the world for a better place. Because at the end of the day, that is what I would like. I would like to see the world be a happier and healthier place, because it's absolutely crazy, all this sort of stuff that's going on. But then people do, I've got other beliefs that people bring this in to sort of create these things for people to then, situations for people to look at to make sure that the change comes about. But you just begin to despair at times. But I don't want to focus in on that. I want to look at what we can learn from it, what we can bring to the world. And that's my sort of passion and mission. But I'm not out there, like you've said, sort of clanging my bell going, whoa, listen to me. I want to do it, and you can help me facilitate that, doing what you're doing.
Absolutely, yeah. Yes. And, you know, I think about it and I go, you know, what? Passion, you know. And you realise that actually I've probably got the same kind of set of passions as a teacher or somebody like that, because it's helping people shine. You know, perfect example, you know, you being a recruitment consultant. And I know, without knowing you back then, that you weren't the type of recruitment consultant to smash somebody into a job just so that you get your payoff. You're trying to match people with the right roles, because then they're going to stay there. And then the client's going to be happy, and they're going to be happy, and if everybody's happy, the world is a happy place.
Absolutely.
And you know that you just touched on it there, and it's something that I don't do, and I haven't done for years. And I used to feel, I think I had a sense of almost guilt because of it, and I felt, I think, probably ignorant as well. Is I stay away from news. Quite often I really limit my news input, because I forgot about this, because I naturally stay away from news stuff, because it's not good. And you're right, the world is not a positive place a lot of the time. Positive stories don't sell. You know, if a cat gets stuck up a tree and then is saved by a fireman, that's no longer on the telly because no one's interested.
I am completely with you. I don't listen to the news, and I rely on my office manager to fill me in when I need any extra information, because I just don't listen to it. I have the sound bites on the radio, probably if it's on in the morning at, I don't know, 7:30, 8 o'clock, 8:30, and that's about it. Then at lunchtime, and it's literally sort of like about, I don't know, is it about a minute and a half, and that's about as much as I want to consume.
That's
but
plenty.
You're right, they only talk about bad stuff, and actually the world is a brilliant place. There is an amazing amount of people doing incredible stuff, and actually if you looked at the ratio, I think it would weight in terms of the people doing the good stuff versus the people doing the bad stuff. But unfortunately, you've got the people doing the bad stuff who predominantly are the ones that are in charge of organisations that are making huge amounts of money from people that it's just...
And you know, the positive doesn't sell. So we don't hear about it. And that's,
Exactly. So therefore, I tune it off. I don't listen to it. I listen to positive stuff. I surround myself with positive people, and I look at all the positives. I'll always look at what that is presenting to me. You know, and I just will look at the positive, because you've just said yourself, when you start to listen to that negative, it changes your your vibrational frequency and your subconscious and everything sort of, it brings you down. So you just, doom and gloom. Well, is it worth me living anymore? Holy moly.
And that attracts more of the same. So let's get out of that. Seriously.
So
I used to feel a bit ignorant because people would talk about stuff and I'd be like, I don't really know what they're talking about there, if I'm honest. And it's only kind of recently that I've embraced it and I've gone, actually, yeah, it's the right thing to do. And that was when the first COVID lockdowns happened and we all sat there and watched Boris Johnson talk every afternoon. And I managed it for about 4 afternoons before I went, nah, I don't need this. And then
you did longer than me.
4 afternoons. So that was me. That was me done.
I mean, to me, it's about being connecting with your authentic, true self, being who you're meant to be, being that person without fear of being sort of criticised, and if people are criticising and pulling you down, it's invariably because there's something that they need to deal with in their own sort of life or what have you, and sort of associate, because when people feel like they've got to change to keep up with you or anything like that, it means they've got to address stuff. They're not in a position to do that, and just let it go. And people, if they want to continue on the journey with you, they will adapt and change. And if you want different results in life, you have to change your own behaviour. You can't change that of others. And so it's accepting if somebody doesn't like the way you are, that's fine, as long as you're not doing anything untoward to hurt people purposely, and everything sort of, everything's in alignment and you're happy as a person, as you will know from episodes that you've already edited and were already released, for the likes of, Katie Neves, she's a trans woman and she's on a real mission to, and it's amazing because she's living her true happy life, and that's great. And I think that's the power of the podcast is, and you editing it in the right way, is that you're sympathetic in the way that you edit, and you're non-judgmental in the way that you edit, and you're not trying to twist anybody's words. You're doing it authentically as well, and you've got that sort of, you're holding that conversation that I have with my guests and with obviously other podcast shows that you're producing. That's the word. You'll be editing that bit, but you're holding that space as well. But you're holding that space. You're not trying to go, oh well, you're not casting any judgment over it. You're very open-minded to it all, which is where all that learning's coming in, because you're very receptive, and you are enabling those stories to be told, to go out, because they're real, they're people, we're all unique human beings, we're all individuals. We are not meant to be a replica of the next person. We're not meant to have Botox and fillers and pumped up this, that and the other. We're meant to be our unique individual selves. Embrace your sort of, I'm not saying don't have plastic surgery if it's if it's going to help with health, but if it's something else, maybe it could be dealt with in another way. Maybe I'm just fearful of the knife. Who knows?
I would be. I definitely am. I think you're right. I think the media has for years just kind of controlled everything that people see, and it keeps us all within a box. But now, with obviously the internet being a massive thing, and podcasts as well being that longer form of content where people can really engage and connect with people and understand people a bit better. And I think it's just about understanding people, whatever their background, whoever they are, whatever they are. We're all people, and it's good to understand people. And even though I don't watch much TV, I saw a Google advert about that, and that's kind of their new campaign, is understanding people. And it's all right not to know what to do. You can, the answer is you can Google it. But essentially, the message is, is people understanding people, and that's so important, and that's what we're able to now do. And I think as a society we have become more accepting, because everything isn't controlled by big media organisations as it always has been previously, because we're making our own stories and we're connecting with people on our own terms.
Absolutely, and we can tune and choose what we listen to, can't we, as well? And that's the beauty of it. I mean, to some respects, you sort of think, oh my gosh, there's so much out there. Where do I even start? The whole premise of TV shows, though, it just sent me back in time to when I was growing up. You had the television in the corner of the room.
Big wooden one, right? Same as ours.
Yes. And I'd give my brother, it's my brother's turn. Your turn to change the channel.
Yeah, you had to actually get up and change the channel.
Yes. And of all three channels, it was BBC One, BBC Two, and ITV, and that was it. That was the three channels.
Yeah.
And yes, you had to manually change all the buttons. And that's interesting, actually, talking about that. That's just, you see, I'm going off on Ronnie Corbett. I do tend to do this. And for anybody who doesn't know Ronnie Corbett, just Google it.
Yeah.
He sits in a chair and tells long stories and goes off at different angles. But, making all these changes that make life, in inverted commas, easier, we're not moving as much. And I was doing a yoga online session with my yoga teacher 2 or 3 weeks back, and he was talking about we're not moving in the way that we used to move, because we've got, and that was one where nobody gets up to change the channel anymore, because you've got the remote control button, or you don't have to go to, you don't walk places because you've got a car. You don't have to, that things aren't, you've got food processors and things like that, so you're not perhaps using the same muscles that you would be doing if you're mixing things or chopping stuff in the same way that you would have done. You don't
have to go and pay bills at the bank anymore, and then that bill's paid at the post office, and I need to go down to the mortgage company to pay that bill. You don't do any of that, and that's a good thing. But
and now we can listen to all these choices on podcasts, though, globally. But it's been such a growth phenomenon, though, hasn't it? I mean, but you can walk and listen to your podcast, so you can go out and get some fresh air and download and listen to your podcast as you walk. Although I have to admit that I do like to, when I'm out running or walking, I just like to be with my own thoughts rather than anything else. But we're all different. We're all unique.
Absolutely.
We talked about what is it you make you happy, but what tips would you have for happiness for anybody? What would you sort of suggest to people? What are your top tips for happiness,
Oh, God,
Pete?
top tips for happiness. Oh, no. I knew this was coming. Why didn't I think about this? Top tips for happiness. Do you know what? I think just to be aware of what you want. And I'm not, some people would call it in business goal setting and all that kind of stuff. Decide what you want and how you're going to get there. Also, just be aware of how things make you feel. If that's people who you see who say things to you that don't make you feel good, maybe back away from those people, Just be receptive. Listen to yourself and act accordingly. When things don't make you feel good, step away from them. For me, it's not watching the news of every evening before bed. No. And I think also, and this sounds a bit woo-woo, but it's something that's come to me, a sense of calm that everything will actually work out. Everything's going to be okay.
Absolutely. It is. I love that. You see, that's one of mine. I believe everything's working out wonderfully. So whatever it is, there's a reason. And COVID hit and everything. We were talking about the situation that you were in with the sort of the job going, oh my God. Well, I had that panic with COVID hitting, but it's sort of a bottle of wine, and that wasn't the solution. And I just realised.
So maybe two bottles of wine would have been. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. But it's like, no, that's not the answer. Pivot. And then I saw it as just this amazing opportunity to do what to do stuff that I had this unwritten permission, or this written permission, I should say, not to do anything to do with recruitment at all. And it just took me off, and I sort of set up my YouTube channel and did more training and did all X, Y, and Z, which is ultimately how I've ended up really with the podcast, because opportunities present themselves and you then go on this new path. So everything is working out wonderfully. We have survived. Unfortunately, I do appreciate there are people that have lost people, and I do get that, and my heart goes out to you all, because it has been tough. I'm not trying to make light of it, but what I am saying is that with change, it takes you on a different journey, and if you look at things from a positive perspective, there is this learning, there is this opportunity to see things in a different way, to do things differently, to embark on a completely different journey if you choose to, which is what obviously you've done and what I've done in many respects.
When you're not positive and you're looking at the ground, you don't see those opportunities, whereas when you are looking up high and you're feeling good, you spot opportunities much more readily, because you're not caught in a whirlwind of negativity, which I've been in previously and I was in for years. that doesn't do you any good, because I've been there.
No, well, that surprises me, because I wouldn't have picked that up from you, Pete, at all, because I just get this sort of positive vibe, which is always, and I have to say, it's always great when I get an email from Pete or a message. It's always upbeat, it's always humorous, and it's sort of capitals, and it's all just makes me laugh every time.
That capitals, that's shouting, by the way.
Oh, okay. Shouty capitals. How rude.
I should do italics, but I don't really know how to do that. So, I don't know.
Yeah, but Pete has taught me how to put in emojis into my emails, which I didn't know how to do before.
Lesson.
So yeah,
big lesson.
Big lesson there, and it's been great fun ever since. My emails are peppered with them. Oh, Pete, thank you so much for being my guest and sharing more insights to podcast world and your journey, etc. And my audience, my listeners, are getting to know who you are and what you do for me on a podcast basis, and that is absolutely brilliant. So how do people get in touch with you if they want to know more and they want to have their own podcast show produced?
They can get a hold of me by going to carrotcruncher.com. The company's called Carrot Cruncher Media, carrotcruncher.com. Shall I spell it? No, I'm not going to insult you by spelling carrot or cruncher, but it's all one word, and it's carrotcruncher.com. I
always want to spell carrot wrong. Don't ask me why.
Now. Right. Okay, if you can't spell carrot, Google it. I'm not gonna spell it out for you. I'm not gonna do it.
Oh, go on. I always forget to put two R's in.
Thank God, you know it's two R's though. You do know it's two R's.
I know. I think I get confused with Carol.
Of course. Why wouldn't you?
And on that note, this has been Sarah J Naylor at Harnessing Happiness. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and if you have, please do rate and review and follow, subscribe, whatever you do on your platform. And until next time, thank you for being my fabulous listeners. Take care and have a great day, afternoon, week, month, year. Until the next time, goodbye.
Thanks for listening to the Harnessing Happiness podcast with Sarah J Naylor. If you took value from the content, please follow the show on your podcast app. And to find out more about Sarah's ape mindset, visit sarahjnaylor.com. That's Sarah J Naylor.